What it do, y'all? This your man King Eric the Great, aka the Media Assassin, representing Off the Cuff Radio, Screwball Radio. Let's go. So we're approaching WrestleMania week, and this is the first time, maybe the first time ever, I've lost all interest in WrestleMania and wrestling, period. The business is not moving at all at this point. I don't know if it's because of COVID. I don't know if it's because the storylines are not hit, even though it's been like this for the past several years. It's just something missing with today's WrestleMania. It don't feel like a WrestleMania. And it just feels like nobody's putting the effort in making it a WrestleMania. So, in knowing that, I haven't been really inspired as of late by the business. So I went ahead and checked out some of the classics from the era we grew up listening to or watching. Now, even though I'm an 80s guy, I gotta say this. After watching the matches, watching how the storylines interact, how the characters develop, Stone Cold versus The Rock is possibly the greatest rivalry the WWE has ever produced. Better than Bret and Shawn, better than Savage and Hogan, better than Snake and Savage, Andre versus Hogan, Cena versus Orton especially. I mean, I'm gonna give a breakdown right. Austin versus The Rock was a perfect example of the gully brawler versus the flashy ish talker. This right here was the Jay-Z versus Nas of its era for wrestling fans. The Ali of its Frazier for the wrestling fans. Because let me tell y'all what made this thing so special. Is that it was on site. They both shot their ish off on promos. They both had great entertainment interactors. They had great chemistry on the mic. So anytime when they were crossing paths, it was a special moment. And I'm going to say this though. When it comes to judging ring work, I'd give the slight edge to The Rock. Why? Because The Rock could work with anybody, whereas Stone Cold's neck was messed up at the time. So therefore, it put limitations to a lot of what he could do. I'm going to give you all a perfect example. Look at the match that they did with Eddie Guerrero. Rest in peace. Look at Stone Cold's match with Eddie. That was basically a squash match because Stone Cold's neck was messed up. Whereas The Rock and Eddie, they had a great back and forth. So the styles were very different. Another thing too, they had different styles to where they clicked together instantly. But peep the promo before WrestleMania 17. The tension was there. They brought that big fight feel every time they squared up. And they often brought the best out of one another. And one of my favorite moments of that was not only Austin throwing The Rock's belt over the bridge, but when The Rock threw Austin over the bridge himself in retaliation 2 years later. Look at the feuds, the beer bath, the Stone Cold beer bath. Then when they had the little funeral part where Stone Cold pulled up and then Shane McMahon hit my man over the head with a shovel. So that was dope. But the first WrestleMania match they had was great, even though Austin's head wasn't really in it. He had a lot going on at that time. But the second match, everything was perfect. Everything was perfect. Even though people would complain about the ending, with Stone Cold selling his soul to the devil, it still was one of the greatest matches ever, and the crowd was so red hot for it through the whole thing. The third one was a great send-off. The Stone Cold really put The Rock over on that one. It gave him that dub. It was Stone Cold's last match. It was very sentimental, but that was a great trilogy right there. Probably the greatest trilogy the WWE ever produced. Because The Rock and Stone Cold were both creative, gifted individuals that could bounce off each other. And another thing, too, it was also a rare time in the WWF where you had usually a leading guy being the face of the company. It was Hulk Hogan. Then it became, who else? Bret Hart. It was always one guy. It was one guy that was the face, and there was another guy that was a heel. These two here, they came at a time where they had two icons. Austin was red hot in 98. The Rock was gaining steam at a quicker pace in 98. It was like DMX versus Jay-Z in terms of friendly competition. Nobody expected The Rock to gain fire like he did, which was crazy to me if you really look back at it. He made a transition within 1 year. A 1 year transition to being one of the biggest stars ever. And the same with Stone Cold within a year himself. That go to show you how much creativity the characters and the wrestlers had at that time. They were able to inject certain elements to make their character come to life. And them two end up being the biggest stars that the WWE ever produced. So, in closing, if you're a wrestling fan, a true wrestling fan, check out that trilogy, man. Who do you thought was better, The Rock or Stone Cold Steve Austin? Stone Cold Steve Austin was red hot in 98. And 99, he carried up into 99, but when he went out in late 99, The Rock carried that ball, and the WWE did the highest numbers it ever did in 2000. So, drawing power, I got to give that to The Rock by an edge. Even though with matches, Stone Cold probably has that. I don't know. I got to rewatch it again. So, this is King Eric signing out. Let me know what you guys think. Who was better, Rock or Austin? Let me know how.